Season 2 of Suso no Frieren is back in full force, bringing even more melancholy and funny moments for us to enjoy. And that's it for today. I'm out. It starts with Frieren and the others leaving the city where Fern and Frieren took the first class mage exam, but it seems their money is running out, and Fern comments that if they don't think 2 steps ahead, their journey will end before it even begins. She thanks the old man for the ride, but he says he felt at ease having a first class mage with him. The old man also mentions that going to end is an extraordinarily long journey. Then it cuts to Stark, who was fishing, but it seems the creature he hooked is very strong until the line snaps, and he returns to where the other 2 were. Fern was cutting some mushrooms, and at least he didn't come back empty-handed. Frieren was inside the bushes looking for something, and Stark comments that she doesn't usually wake up early, but she was after something. When she pulls a crystal out of the bushes, the red-haired boy asks what it is. She hands it to him, but this crystal has an effect on mages. Fern was about to light the fire when she is surprised to realize she can't use magic. Frieren then explains that the crystal is a magic nullifying stone, extremely rare, and one of that size can affect a radius of up to 3 meters. Just one is worth a pile of gold. But Fern says this could put them in danger and tells Frieren to throw it away. However, Frieren says there's something else she wants to show. If you infuse mana into the crystal, it can emit an extremely bright light. Even so, Fern insists that she should get rid of it. They continue their journey, and Stark asks Frieren if they are close to the northern plateau. The elf replies that it's still a bit far, near a volcanic area, but it's inactive, with only hot springs left. Fern gets excited about that. Suddenly, Frieren senses something strange and tells them to wait. She says the ground seems stable. But before she can finish, it collapses and they fall. They barely avoid disaster. They try to use flight magic, but something strange starts happening. Their magic grows weaker, and Frieren realizes they might be in trouble. Stark falls into a mine, and soon after, the 2 girls land right on top of him. Then it all makes sense. They're inside a crystal mine, but Stark jokes that at this rate, they'll be richer than a gambling promoter. But Frieren says that's impossible because that material is the hardest in the world and can't be cut or mined. Stark doesn't buy it, so he swings his axe. A basic hit, no critical, and realizes some things are just impossible for humans to break. They conclude they'll have to find another way out, and I didn't even know Frieren held grudges. She looks at Stark and says that, without magic, they're just normal, defenseless girls, so he'll have to protect them. But Stark drops a line that makes Frieren completely furious. Girls! She says she hasn't forgotten that he called her an old idiot. And so they continue searching for an exit. Stark comments to Fern that he's never camped in a place like this, while Frieren just lies down and falls asleep as if nothing is happening. But this scares Fern. Without magic, that place could easily be the lair of something dangerous, and that starts to make her nervous. Suddenly, something emerges from the water. With impressive speed, Stark tries to warn Frieren, but the monster already attacks. Luckily, the warrior manages to save her in time. It's a poison dragon, and it's clear this is a worthy opponent for the redhead. Stark asks what they should do, and Frieren simply says she trusts her life to him, but the young warrior is desperate to run. So Frieren has an idea. She takes a crystal, tells everyone to close their eyes, and infuses it with mana, illuminating the entire cave, and this creates a parallel with the past. It shows Himmel and the others where Eisen asked Himmel why he trusts his life to his companions. Himmel replies that they are companions, and there's nothing wrong with running away. If necessary, they'll run. Back to the fight against the dragon, the monster destroys a pillar, and the debris falls toward Frieren and Hyder, but Himmel and Eisen manage to save them. However, the dragon charges straight at Eisen. At that moment, Himmel grabs Frieren and tells everyone to run. Hyder complains, saying he's a priest and shouldn't be carrying weight, but admits that maybe it's good for him to sober up. Stark runs off with both of them over his shoulders, and honestly, Frieren must be suffering there, and not just a little. Once outside the cave, Frieren comments that it was scary, but that running away isn't so bad after all. The 2 girls get up, but Stark confesses he was so scared his legs actually froze. And man, you're gonna laugh at what happens to Stark next. Go ahead and comment, does he have luck or not? The warrior was heading back to camp with a basket of vegetables, but when he arrives, the 2 mages are gone, so he decides to go fishing. Cut to the stream where Frieren and Fern were getting some fresh air. Fern was cleaning her bracelet, the one Stark gave her, as well as the hairpin she got from Frieren. The elf comments that she really takes good care of her things. Fern replies that she does because they were gifts. And since she lost everything in the war, she learned to value what she has. Frieren says it was worth it choosing the hairpin, and Fern answers that she knows. But how does she know? And that calm, peaceful atmosphere completely disappears. Stark arrives at the stream and sees the 2 of them in, let's just say, less than conventional clothes. Fern immediately calls him a pervert, and let's be honest, that doesn't really help his case. Stark apologizes, but Fern says she's not mad, and you can really see how airheaded Frieren is. She looks at the situation and asks Stark if there's something wrong, and it seems she's starting to notice a few things. But then, Frieren says something unexpected. If Stark is upset, he can leave the group, but before Stark can answer, they come across a crossroads. Stark says there's an inn on the road to the northern plateau, so it'd be better to spend the night there. When they arrive at the inn, they meet a second-class mage, Werble, who thanks Stark for helping against a monster. He comments that ever since they left the city where they took the first-class exam, things have gotten more dangerous. Werble says demons are moving in the far north, so he needs to return as soon as possible. Right now, now he's traveling with his companions, and one of the girls in his group mentions that he always complains about getting seasick. Stark jokes that he's already a grown man and shouldn't be complaining about that, but Warble replies that he's not that old, he's still young. And Warble asks if Stark has thought about his proposal. Frieren asks what proposal that is. Warble explains that he wants Stark to help on the front lines for 2 or 3 years until things settle down, and Fern just watching everything quietly. Stark says he's already part of a group, but Warble is persistent and says he doesn't give up easily, asking Frieren if she could try to persuade him. Frieren simply gives her permission, but Fern seems a bit down about that. That night, we see Stark getting some fresh air, and Fern goes up to him. He says he was at rock bottom before meeting the two of them, and that he was always ready to run away. Frieren may say she forced him into the group, but in truth, it was Fern who talked to him, who encouraged him, and that's why he decided to join them. Then he reveals he didn't accept Warble's proposal, and you can see Fern soften a little at that. Let's be honest. Then Stark asks her to be a bit gentler with him, and Fern says she'll give him a special treat, and the guy is completely shocked. Cut to the girls' room. Frieren passed out on the floor, and Fern getting ready to sleep. The next day, Warble comments that he couldn't convince Stark. One of his companions asks if they'll travel by sea, but Fern says sea travel is very expensive. Stark then says that the heroes of the past traveled through the Northern Plateau Road, and that's the path they'll follow too. And so, they say their goodbyes. Then we see Frieren doing a job cleaning statues again, and the reward is a spell that relieves itches on your back. What a spell. Stark asks if they'll take this kind of job again, and Fern comments that there are many statues of Himmel in that area. Stark gets excited, saying it might actually be fun to clean statues, but Frieren immediately kills his hype, saying it's a bronze statue, so he won't really have to do anything. There goes his fun. Then they show the statue, and Stark is surprised, asking who that is. Frieren explains that it's the famous hero of the South. Himmel was the one who defeated the Demon King, but that doesn't mean he was the only one who tried. The hero of the South was known as the strongest and most powerful human. Stark thinks that sounds exaggerated, but Frieren says he deserved that title. Back then, the greatest threats were the 7 Sages of Destruction. During Frieren's journey with Stark and Fern, they only defeated 2 of the 5 remaining. 2 fled or disappeared, like Aura the Guillotine, but the hero of the South defeated the other 3 by himself. Yeah. The guy was insane. In just 1 year, he destroyed the Demon King's forces and advanced into the heart of the far north, along the Demon Army's supply route. That's where he faced Schlacht the Omniscient, one of the sages who could see 1,000 years into the future with his magic, in the final battle with the sages present. The hero of the South defeated 3 of them, and in the end, he and Schlacht killed each other. That's how that region was freed from the sages' control. The village people are extremely devoted to him. His body was never found, and some say he and Schlacht are still fighting to this day. But Frieren, as always, makes the mood heavy. She says the demons in that region like human flesh, so maybe he was eaten. And then Frieren just picks up her staff and goes, let's get to work. Cut to a flashback. We see Frieren back when she was found by Himmel in that city. Before that, she had been found by the hero of the South himself, who tried to convince her to fight the Demon King alongside him, but Frieren refused, and he already knew. When she asks how, he says he knew she would refuse, and then reveals something. He'll tell her his secret, the reason he's called the strongest hero of humanity. And man, this is actually shocking. He reveals that he can see the future, but Frieren doesn't care. He's surprised and asks if she doesn't believe him, but she says that's not it. She just doesn't care. And he asks if she knows about the 7 Sages of Destruction, and it seems she already did. Tells her that in 1 year he will be defeated and killed by Schlacht and the other sages on the edge of a hill overlooking a snow-covered ruined village. The 7 sages would appear, and that would be his end. Even if Frieren joined him, it wouldn't change anything. Then he prophesies, in the near future, a young hero with light blue hair will appear and find her, and he will be the one to defeat the Demon King and save the world, and Frieren will travel alongside him. Before leaving, the man asks her to say something to that young hero, but they don't show what she said. So frustrating. He says he will open the path for them, even if his deeds are forgotten by history. But to the present, the statue is clean and some children are playing next to Stark. Stark comments that it's been a while since they stayed in a big city, but Frieren says they'll leave as soon as they restock supplies. There's something off about her. She's walking too fast. That's not normal. Stark asks if they won't stay a little longer. He even tries to start a conversation, pointing out a magic shop, but Frieren just says time is infinite, and keeps buying, and buying, and buying. And of course, Stark is the one suffering, carrying all the weight. The guy even wants to stop to eat something, but Frieren says they don't have extra money, so they need to hurry. Fern realizes something is wrong with her. They run after Frieren, but she suddenly stops, and says they arrived too late. A butler appears and asks if she is Miss Frieren. He says his master would like to have dinner with her. He initially turns away to leave, but the butler insists, saying she is part of the heroes who saved those lands. So he invites all of them, and this time, Frieren accepts. At the Lord's table, they eat, but Frieren clearly looks uncomfortable. The Lord thanks her for helping his great-grandfather, and Frieren, as direct as ever, asks what he wants. Then he reveals, the sword passed down through his family was stolen by a demon, and she says again, the sword has been stolen generation after generation. Frieren immediately says she'll want a grimoire as a reward. The woman complains that nobles make absurd demands. Last time, the man even threatened them. If they didn't bring the sword back, they'd be thrown into the dungeon. How tyrannical. vehicle. But last time, they found the damn sword just lying in a pile of rubble. Frieren asks why they keep stealing this sword. Frieren explains that it once belonged to a famous demon. Maybe that attracts other demons, something only they would understand. But then comes the question, why didn't Frieren refuse? Because Himmel once retrieved that sword, and he would never refuse to help someone in need. The next day, they start searching everywhere. They ask a cart driver, try to find clues while fishing, rest, even go through random moments like stepping on a snake, until they reach a strange area, a destroyed apple cart, covered in blood, and further ahead, a completely devastated village. Frieren immediately realizes there's someone here. Then a hooded woman appears and asks who they are. Stark says they're just traveling adventurers. The woman approaches and says she was praying for the villagers killed by the sword demon, and asks them to pray with her. Stark and Fern close their eyes, but Frieren doesn't. She summons her staff and casts a spell on the ground. Fern realizes immediately there are no bodies buried there, which means the priestess is actually the sword demon. She reveals that she killed them all to devour them and then draws her sword. The fight begins. Frieren attacks first, but the demon dodges quickly. She dives in, engaging Stark in close combat, while Frieren continues attacking from a distance. Fern joins the fight too, but her attacks can't hit. The demon is extremely fast. In a critical moment, the demon breaks Fern's barrier and is about to kill her. But Stark intervenes. He protects her with a powerful kick, pushing the enemy back. Fern thanks him for saving her. The demon retreats, but Frieren from above launches a final attack and destroys her. Cut to a moment with Himmel, saying that's why he accepts even simple jobs. Because everything has value. Back in the present, Frieren praises Stark and Fern. They then make a grave for the villagers. Fern asks why Frieren attacked immediately, and she explains, demons attack the moment you lower your guard. Back in the city, the Lord thanks Frieren and the others. Frieren asks the butler to take them to the market, but one question remains, why keep that sword? If it attracts demons, wouldn't it be better to get rid of it? The Lord explains, if it falls into the wrong hands, a demon will take it, and they show no mercy to anyone. That's why protecting the sword has become the duty of the entire city. But what about the grimoire Frieren received? What spell was it? Turning green apples into red ones? How useless, and man, what a great anime to watch. Frieren is back strong in 2026. So tell me, do you like Frieren? Drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss more videos. There's a video on screen right now. Go check it out.